It all comes down to this. Not quite, but it's an important series for the Guardians this week in Detroit, and we'll look back at who we thought were going to be the best prospects in the system this year.
Tanner Bobby of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into another episode of Locked On Guardians. The Guardians might be off today, but or on Monday. We're never off. And oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. A lot of exciting stuff. And this is your only podcast on the Cleveland Guardians that's every single day that covers the Cleveland Guardians, the majors, the minors, and the draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, your Cleveland Guardians every day. I'm one of your two co-hosts, Justin Lada. Been here since October of 2022. And since 2007, I have been covering your favorite and least favorite prospects in the Guardians farm system.
And I am Jeff Ellis, as he said, one of your two co-hosts, one of the first co-hosts Locked On. When we started, just wanted to expand into baseball. Before that, I was a national writer at Scout and 24/7. I was going to do the YouTube shout out, but instead of that, yesterday we talked about game score. Shout out to Everydayer Anthony. That's where the comment was. That's who gets the shout out for bringing up game score, and James Keene for giving some game score information today, two of our everydayers. I want to thank you for making today's episode your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts.
Appreciate you being here. Yeah, on today's show, we got a lot to cover. It's going to be a busy week overall, really. It's going to be a busy end of the season with the way things are wrapping up for Cleveland. We will revisit our 2025 prospect draft and look at our best picks, our worst picks, and who should have been drafted but wasn't. We will finally take a look at Travis Bazzana's season now that it's over with another oblique issue. And we will start today's show talking about the SHOWDOWN in Motown with the Tigers. It's going to be a big one. Before we jump into it all, today's episode of Locked On Guardians brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, if you're a new customer, you can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the entire FanDuel app. Download it today. All right, Jeff, this is not for all the marbles, but it's going to be a lot of marbles in this one. Cleveland has to win this series. It's not just the division, though. I mean, the division is a very faint hope, but it's faint. There is hope, but they just have to keep winning series from here on out if they're going to give themselves a chance in the playoffs, because they're still dependent on other teams' help. So it doesn't matter who they play. They have to win series. But this Detroit one's going to be big. It's going to be an interesting one. The Tigers haven't been as good in the second half. They've had some vulnerabilities. The Guardians, of course, right now are playing really well, at least on terms of defense and pitching, not so much offense, but maybe they'll have a chance to do some things offensively. Let's start off with some of the big things that we know. So the Guardians over the last couple of weeks with this 17 games and 17-day stretch that they just finished, they had a 6-man rotation. For the time being, it looks like that is going to come to an end because they are going to go, it looks like Joey Cantillo in game 1 against Casey Mize. Game 2, it looks like it's going to be Gavin Williams and Jack Flaherty. And then game 3, they're going to move up Tanner Bybee to oppose Tarek Skubal on Thursday. And that will move everybody up a day, but they're all on normal rest anyway because of the 6-man rotation and the off day. That will change things how it works in Minnesota, and that will set up things how it works against the Tigers in the following series in Cleveland. But I think this is the best way to go because you want to have your best arms against the Tigers. You got to win every series. The Twins aren't as formidable. You have a doubleheader there. You got to kind of set things up both short and long term. You want to put your best foot forward right now, and you also want to make sure you're planning through the end of the year to make sure you're lined up as best you can be for every series, but also that final series against Texas. And if it happens, into the playoffs. So we'll see. They may go back to the 6-man rotation. They do have a doubleheader Saturday, so if they are skipping Logan Allen in the series, it sounds like they'll probably need him out of the bullpen this series. Although the Tigers hit lefties very well, so maybe not. But he'll have to pitch against the Twins because they have a doubleheader on Saturday, and that could be where we see John Means too.
Yeah, the Twins hit lefties pretty well as well. The interesting thing with Detroit, I'll say, is arguably their best hitter is a guy who's he's a platoon hitter. Other teams do it as well. I don't know if you knew that, Justin.
What?
No. Other teams also have
platoons are bad, Jeff.
Other teams, Kerry Carpenter, as everyone can recall from the postseason, got yanked every time. I was like, throw a lefty into the third inning. Let's get him out of there. So it's
Guardians don't have any now.
Yeah, they when you're looking at it, they as a team they have a lot of good options on it. Like that's the thing. Like, why do platoons work with Detroit? Because they have guys like Wenzel Perez who they can put with a Kerry Carpenter. They have the pieces to make it work. Andy Ibanez, guys like that. But their best hitter is a lefty, so it's an interesting balance. But they do crush lefties on the whole this year. Not quite as well in the second half. I'm going to point out there, you can go back and listen to some of our earliest podcasts where we were talking about how the Guardians BAPIP showed they were unlucky. The Tigers were maybe a bit lucky. And the second half has been a big amount of regression for the Tigers. If you listen to the Tom Hamilton, I think if he said it once, he said it 4 million times, that the White Sox have a better record than the Detroit Tigers. That was, before Cleveland won, swept the White Sox over the weekend. So, in the second half. I probably misspoke there, but it's like now they've one more win than the Chicago White Sox right now, the Tigers. So it's a good team, but I will tell you, I'm going to enjoy if Cleveland plays well, because the Detroit Tiger fans that jumped in our comments and acted like they had already won the World Series based on, half a year, or based on like Cleveland struggling against Boston was mildly interesting. So I have a lot of families, Detroit fans. They're great Detroit fans. But man, the block stick came out heavy. So I'm very curious to see if Cleveland does well this weekend, which you're probably hoping for 2 out of 3, because you never expect to beat Scooball. But in this situation, if you take 2 out of 3, you're in a very good spot.
I mean, at this point, the Guardians can't afford to lose a series. They have to take 2 or 3 here. They have to take 2 or 3 next week against the Tigers. They have to take probably 3 or 4 against the Twins.
4 out of 4. Twins are in free fall. Yeah. Twins are the easiest team on the schedule.
It's just so hard to sweep doubleheaders. And then you got the Tigers again next week. That's going to be 2 out of 3. Then you finish with the Rangers. You got to probably win. You might have to win. You might have to sweep the Rangers. They're losing right now to the Astros as we record this. So that's some people asking on the Insiders group too about who to root for tonight. And I said you want to root for the Astros technically, because the Guardians have the tiebreaker with the Astros. So you got to pass the Rangers first. And if you finish the year tied with the Astros for the final wild card, you are in. Whereas if they finish the year tied with the Rangers, more than likely they would have to sweep the Rangers in that final series. Then that'd be fine, because they hold the second tiebreaker against the Rangers, which is in interdivision record. So the Guardians have a better AL Central record than the Astros have the West. But that also means that Guardians have to sweep the Rangers the final weekend of the year. So there's gonna be a lot of moving pieces and parts over the next couple of weeks. I will say that some people also in the Insiders group were saying, well, why are they messing with the rotation when it's been working so well? Well, they did that because of the stretch they were in, right? You had, a couple of guys that had not gone this deep in the season. You had Cantillo and Messick and all that stuff, and you wanted to be cautious of innings, and then you just had a very long stretch. Now it's gut check time. You need your best guys to pitch in the series, and you need to put a little bit less emphasis on the Twins series, even though you should sweep that, but it should be a little bit easier. So I think this is the right call. I mean, win or lose, I know Tanner hasn't had the best year on the whole. His last start was fantastic. I know it's the White Sox, whatever, but you just said the White Sox are close to the Tigers in terms of record the second half. So, I want my best guys out there in this series, and the only thing you don't have going for you is you don't have game theory going for you. Is using somebody better, but I'll be surprised. I'm surprised to say this. I'm not surprised to say it, but I'm given how things have gone for him. But I'm really excited to see Joey Cantillo get this chance. The Guardians are going to have to play great defense though in Detroit, because that big outfield.
Actually, I think this is game theory. I think it is because you're taking your best starter Williams, who would have been scheduled to go against Scooball, and you're having him go against Flaherty. Okay. And Tanner has had 2 really good starts, but he has been incredibly inconsistent over the overall course of the year. So by game theory rules, you want to match up your third best starter versus Scooball, which arguably that could be Tanner this year. I know there's going to be some people in our comments who will say that he's not even that, and there'll be people who say that he's definitely there too. But either way, game theory is moving Williams up relative to where he would have pitched.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with Cantillo going game 1. That was the only thing they had lined up because he was on his day, and they could kind of push everybody else around into the Minnesota series. And we'll see how that puts them set up for the next Tigers series. The Tigers hit lefties well this year because they have Jamani Jones and Andy Ibanez and Baez as well. Wenzel Perez, yeah. So it's going to be interesting. But I think, again, it's going to come out of pitching and defense. That's a ballpark. You got to play really good defense. And all right, Travis Bazzana will not be a part of the series this weekend. His season is over. We talked about it yesterday. We'll talk about how to evaluate his first full season in the pros coming up on the rest of today's Lockdown Guardians.
But first, you've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products, and that actually works. There's so many products out there. It's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. 2 big words in here for me. Clinically tested, actually 3 words because that's 2, and dermatologist. We know this is science-based. If I'm going to do something like this, if you're going to spend the time and invest in yourself, you want to go for something science-based. So that is why Nutrafol stands out to me here, personally speaking. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Lockdown MLB listeners $10 off their first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB.
Baseball live. There is nothing like it, and it's going to be a tight playoff race right now. So there's a lot of reason to get to the ballpark wherever you are. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. Getting tickets, though, that can be the tough part. So you don't want to be on login screens, and you don't want surprise fees either. You want to just get the tickets and go. The hardest part should be, what do you want to eat at the ballpark, right? Or where do you want to try to buy some merch? That's why I use the Game Time app. I've used it multiple times this year because it gives the advantage back to fans like you and I. It's fast, easy. They have the Game Time guarantee. You're getting 100% authentic guaranteed tickets. They're delivered on time, and you're getting a great price, too. It shows you exactly what you're going to pay at checkout with no surprise fees, and you get the best price closer to first pitch. So the price you see is the price you pay, and you're going to like the price as you wait till first pitch if you want to go. Decide it's a matchup you like. See if you can be there. You got to look at the weather this time of year, although it's been beautiful in Cleveland. I'm not sure I'll be in Detroit. And they give you the best deals. They show you exactly where the best deals are for each ticket. So download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Hey, you know that whole thing about the Guardians pitching rotation heading into this Detroit series? Well, our insiders had that first. I sent that message out to our insiders about 5 o'clock or so on, maybe it was 3 o'clock or so on Monday. If you want to be part of that group, join subtext.com/LockdownGuardians. We give you some info like that. We chat during the game.
They got it before I did.
Content. That's true. Yeah, they got that info before Jeff did. So, hey. Jeff's not an insider, so you got to sign up, Jeff, if you want that kind of info. But yeah, you can hang out over there and chat with us, get some bonus content, send us questions for mailbag episodes, and then get some interesting insider info, like Travis Bazzana being shut down for the season. So we teased it yesterday. We wanted to talk about it on Monday's episode, but we had so much to talk about, we didn't get a chance to dive in. So if you missed Monday's episode, we had a lot of content to get through because the Guardians had a very fun weekend. And we had to kind of cover it all. So now we'll talk about the unfun thing. That Bazzana's out for the year. And I've just seen a lot of people, Jeff, talking about, oh, well, he didn't make the major leagues. Or, oh, I wish he was moving faster. And the numbers weren't good. And did I expect more from Travis
Bazzana? Were they
Bazzana?
bad? I mean, they weren't. Were they spectacular? No. So. But, he still had an above league average WRC plus. I think, I talked about before, his AA WRC plus would have been top 10 in the league if he had enough at-bats to qualify, which means if he hadn't been hurt.
Yeah. I mean, did I expect a little bit better in terms of the counting stats and maybe the batting average? Yeah, I wanted to see him dominate a little more at AA and then see what happens at AAA. I'll say this. So he got off to a good start in AA, right? There was a really good start. Then he cooled off and was trying to get his bearings. Then he got hurt, and then he came back and then played pretty well after he got hurt. And then he took off like a rocket after he kind of got his bearings back after the oblique injury. And then they put him to AAA. And he had obviously a cold start at AAA. It took a little bit. And then right before the injury, he had he had hit 4 home runs in the span of a couple days. So he was starting to settle in at AAA a little bit. And as I've been saying all year, if you've been reading the newsletter Next Year in Cleveland, if you've been listening to this podcast, if if you listen to my other podcast too, every time you get at Bazzana has gotten to a new level, and the Guardians have said this themselves, that he kind of gets his bearings. He tries to, see how pitchers are going to attack him. He wants to get an idea of the batter's eye and the strike zone. He has got a very good idea for the strike zone. The only thing I think you can complain about right now, outside of defense, which I think we know is an obvious, is Travis Bazzana's passive. He is a passive hitter. He has got a 38% swing rate, which I think I looked up yesterday in preparation for the show, would be one of the lowest in all of Major League Baseball. I think, Juan Soto is like a guy that's down in that area. And you don't want to compare anybody to Juan Soto because he's going to be a Hall of Famer probably. But Juan Soto has a 35% swing rate, so he's very passive. That's not always a good thing. I've complained about hitters like that in the past, but he's not chasing out of the zone. The chase rate is incredibly, incredibly minuscule. I mean, it's in the teens. It's crazy. His AAA data shows that the exit velocities were okay. Like, they were good. They were solid. They could be better, but they're solid. But he barrels the ball. He walks. He doesn't chase. He doesn't swing and miss. He didn't quite start to get to the pulling the ball in the air until the end there. So outside of defense, and I think just maybe making adjustments and being a little more swing ready, that's something I can complain about so far. And it's his first full year, and it was broken up by 2 injuries too. Like, he had the oblique issue, and then obliques are just one of the worst injuries for any baseball player, no matter what position you play. So are there things to improve? Sure. But each time he got settled in at a level, which he did at Lake County in 2024, he got better. So I have no concerns at all. Would I have liked it to have been better? Sure, you would have liked him to be better. But he, bottom line, he was okay this year. He was solid. There's definitely some room for improvement next year. But by no means am I sitting here saying, oh, God, he's a bust. And, oh, God, he's chased the Lauder 2.0 and they got a wrong pick. No, not at all.
So what do
Astros win, by the
outside
way?
of
Rangers move a game closer back to Cleveland. Sorry.
Well, now they're tied. If the Astros won, Cleveland and Texas are tied. Same record, 2 out. Outside of all being in the big leagues this year, what do Chase Burns, Christian Moore, and Jack Caglione all have in common?
They were bad in the big leagues.
Negative WARs.
Yeah.
They were net hurt to their team, the worst being Jack Caglione.
What?
Yes, Nick Kurtz has been great. I will also say the other side of Nick Kurtz is he's rocking a 370 BABIP. A year ago, everyone told me how, Brent Rooker can continue to rock a 360 BABIP because he hits the ball hard. Brent Rooker is having a good year, not a great year. Same with Lawrence Butler. A 370 for Nick Kurtz means there's probably some regression coming. I think he's going to be a very good player, though. He could still be the best player in this class, and he is the one that, you hold up as like, okay, yeah, like if they had taken him right now, things might look a little brighter because he's more of a, what he has. But at the same time, there's a reason why first basemen never go 1 overall. And that's because college first basemen do not have a good track record transitioning to the big leagues. It's been pretty terrible, A, and B, it's just a low value. But again, I can't argue if someone's like, well, Nick Kurtz, it's like, yeah, he's having a great year. But everyone else has been kind of uniformly meh to not great. There's been, and people bring up Connor Griffin. My general rule is I got to see a guy at AA. There's no doubt. And I know did he get called up there yet? I just trying to remember if he got.
Yeah, he's in Erie, or I'm sorry, he's in Altoona. Yeah,
I got to see kind of that extended look with him there. And he could end up being the best one. I'm not sitting here saying I know who the best player in this class is. One thing I know is you can't say anyone is terrible, right? Like you and I looked at last year, and if there's ever a guy who had a bad year, it was Charlie Condon, and he's rebounded to a small degree. Like it's not been great, but you always have to be patient. Travis Bazzana has not been continuously healthy this year. It's just been one of those things. He gets healthy, he gets on a hot stretch. He hasn't settled in. And he's a guy who had no health issues, but I mean, this team is health cursed. So what do we expect? But I can't judge him. I can't. Joey Oakey looked terrible until he got a full season of starts and had those 4 fantastic ones at the end. You need that long rope, that long time to really judge someone. So at this point, it's a pass. Like he's had hot points where he has played really well. And even when he's down, he's finding ways to be productive. Now, I do get worried with walk rates, but because of his passivity, he might be that guy who walk rates will be a little bit predictive for. But yeah, you were hoping that he'd be healthy and you would have seen more. But at the same time, I'm not willing to call it a bad pick. I'm not willing to throw my hat away and say, oh, bust.
Yeah. We'll have a little bit more to say about Travis Bazzana's season and his development overall, and among other prospects. Who did Jeff and I take in this year's prospect draft? Maybe you remember, maybe you don't. We're going to revisit that. We'll talk about our best picks. We'll talk about the best picks that should have been made that weren't. So tune in for the rest of that on today's Lockdown Guardians. Football season, it is doing some things right now. FanDuel wants to make sure you're ready for kickoff with the can't miss offer. Right now, if you are a new customer, you can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And I've said multiple times, we've seen 150, we've seen 200, I've seen 250, I've never seen $300. So if you can responsibly play on FanDuel, have a little bit of fun, and you haven't done it yet, you can throw $5 on a bet that doesn't have, it's very short in terms of odds, and you just want to get that bonus, you can get $300 to get a little bit more fun. As for the Guardians and Tigers on Tuesday, the over-under is 8. The Guardians are favored by a run in, the Tigers are favored by a run and a half. I can't decide on picking who is going to win the game, but I can say this. I feel like it's going to be the under on 8 runs. I just do. The way that the Guardians have been pitching and playing defense, the way the Guardians don't hit, but just enough. And the Tigers offense does hit lefties well, as we said, but they haven't been that great in the second half. So I'm still taking the under on a lot of their games right now. So if you're ready to play responsibly, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Hey, if you like what you're hearing here on Locked On Guardians, we're here every single day talking Cleveland Guardians baseball. And if you're not an everydayer, shout out to our everydayers who are we are part of the routine. We do love that. But if you're not, you can hit the bell on YouTube to make sure you never miss an episode on YouTube, as well as reaction videos, any sort of news videos, the MLB Squad Show, which comes back this week on Friday. And on audio is the best way also to help the podcast out by making sure you're auto-downloading right into your podcast feeds wherever you get podcasts. We'd love to be part of your morning routines. We'll cover more thoughts on Travis Bazzana as we get into our prospect draft from earlier this season. You were saying about you need to give these guys a little bit of rope. I do think I understand the frustration is that we, along with other people, not that we said, he's going to be an all-star in 2025. We didn't say that. But we did pitch the pick, and everybody's idea of the pick at number 1 was that Bazzana was an advanced player, that he wouldn't need a ton of time in the minors. Like, it was a guy who you kind of thought was close to big league ready, and that wasn't the case in 2025. So I do understand people, not panic or frustration, but I understand that the tepid nature of the response to his season based off of that context. But yeah, that being said, it's just, it didn't happen that way. It's unfortunate. I wish it had. Would have loved for him to be pushing a June or September call-up. Now we're going to be waiting until June 2026, more than likely. You just want to be healthy. And I'm not worried about the injuries. Obliques stink, but he's going to have the whole offseason to recover from the oblique issue. And I can't listen to the Chase DeLauder comparisons either, because, again, we talked about this yesterday. DeLauder had multiple injuries. He's missed multiple seasons. Travis Bazzana has already played more games this year in a single season than Chase DeLauder has played in a single season his entire career.
DeLauder hasn't been healthy since preschool. He missed games every single year of college. His healthiest stretch was the Cape Cod League. That is his healthiest stretch in the history of his career, is Cape Cod. So it's very different. They drafted a guy who was hurt at the time, who they knew was hurt. It's a silly comparison. Travis
Bazzana played 84 games this season. Chase DeLauder in his minor league career has never played more than 40 to 57 games in a season, and that was 2023. He only played 42 this year.
I believe he played more games in the Cape than he played at James Madison the 3 years he was there.
I would not be surprised by that. Yeah, not at all. So I'm not entertaining those comparisons. I'm sorry.
It's silly.
The only thing I worry about with Bazzana is defense, because we've seen how good second base defense, how important that's been over the last couple of years. And on Sunday, of course, that's a conversation for another day. The conversation we want to have now is which of Jeff or I had the worst prospect draft. If you are watching it,
I'm allowed to draft Chase DeLauder anymore, right? Like, is that the rule?
You are not, because let's see. I have the data. Our insiders have the content in their folder on the Google Drive.
Because I was team injury originally, so I think if I had him 3 years in a row.
I had Chase DeLauder last year, actually.
Okay.
and 2023 you had Chase Laughter. So you've had Chase Laughter 2 out of the last 3 years. But historically, Jeff, you've been team injury. You have taken Chase Laughter. You've taken Daniel Espino. You've taken Cody Morris. Let's see. You've taken, it wasn't Juan Brito this year. You've taken George Valera. So Leftwich, who's always been hurt. You have historically been team injury. If you're watching on YouTube, we have the graphic up. And again, if you're an insider, you also have this in the Google Drive you can access as well. I think we both did pretty good, to be honest with you, looking at this. Like, catcher, I think obviously I had the edge at catcher. Like, I had Cooper Ingle, you had Kozar, but Kozar came on strong at the end of the year. In my opinion, you had the best pick of the entire season, Ralphie Velasquez. I think he was the best player in the system the entire season, at least in terms of the position player side. Pitching wise, I definitely had you there.
I would argue it's Kafis. I would argue. I mean, we forget because he got called up. I think Kafis was the minor league player of the year for them.
I'm just so high on Ralphie right now.
I mean,
really,
if Kafis was still a prospect, like I would have Ralphie ranked ahead of him. But just in terms of minor, I
would.
I think I would have Ralphie ahead of Kafis right now. But I think that Kafis had the better overall year. But they would probably be like this, like just because I don't know that I would put Kafis above Ralphie. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I would have Ralphie ahead of Kafis.
But, yeah.
But in terms of like performance this year, I think Kafis had the better year than Ralphie. But they would be very close. Like it's
I'm not looking at performance. I'm looking at performance, but who put the most, who raised their stock the most in terms of their future. And to me, that's Ralphie. I mean, you grabbed Joey Cantillo, who I think is starting to blossom. I know we're being a little bit skeptical in terms of he's done it over a short period of time recently, but I don't know. We've always liked him, so I like where he's at there. I like the pitching I grabbed though. I got Doughty and I got Messick, who had a great year and is in the majors this year, and I got Joey Oki, who I know didn't have a great Arizona Complex League run, but he has had a fantastic end of the season. You know, he was one of my favorite prospects in the draft last year, and I like where he's going too. And I got Alfonso Rosario, who struggled in Double-A, but had a pretty breakout year.
We both had 3 really good pitchers at the top of ours. We both had 3 solid performers at the top of our rotations. In first base was great. Catcher I ended up having a nice rebound because Cozart. Outfield was a little sketchy. Again, just the injury showed up throughout both of these.
Cleveland outfield sketchy? No, I don't think that's ever true.
And I think kind of one of the hilarious things in retrospect is neither of us took Franco Alamon for our bullpen. Like, what did we see that made us even then be like, we were going well off board. Like, I decided to go with Magnus Ellerts, who did not have a great year. But I decided to go with him over Alamon. Like, I had my concerns, you had your concerns, and this year we've seen those concerns come to life. But I think that was one of those things that stood out that we both, because I was looking at specifically like who were my 5 highest rated prospects who did not get taken by anyone, and it's Espino, it's Cody Huff, it's
neither one of us was going to take Cody Huff. Come on, let's get real. You had Engel and Kozar. That was pretty obvious.
You had Alamon, and you had Doug Casey. Those are my 5 highest guys.
Yeah, I
like 6 would have been DeLucia for me. So at least there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I took Rafe Schlesinger as a reliever, and I still stand by that.
And Cleo Watson is probably the biggest name that right now who isn't on one of these lists.
Yeah, Cleo Watson didn't get drafted by either of us. Now, if you're listening on audio, so at the beginning of the year, if you're new, we've been doing this since 2023. We do a prospect draft at the beginning of each year, and we select an entire starting lineup, including a DH. We take 5 starting pitchers, and we each take 2 relievers. So neither one of us took, out of 6 outfielders drafted, and including the DH spot, neither one of us took Cleo Watson, and then neither one of us took Yorman Gomez, who, not really a surprise because he wasn't like a big name coming into the year. But if you look at his numbers from 2024, they were kind of interesting, and he took another step forward this year. So he's a guy. Uniker Caceres was a guy that was on a lot of prospect lists coming into the year, but you and I are just very skeptical about complex league stats. But he got promoted at age 17 to low A and held his own there, so that's pretty good. And Cleo Watson probably the other one. And you were once again, Jeff, team injury. You took Andrew Walters. You had DeLauder. Churio was hurt this year. Welbin finished the year on the IL. I had Brito, I had Henao and Valera. Those guys were hurt a lot this year, but outside of that, my team was much healthier, I would say.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I did have the 2 second half guys. I had Nick Mitchell and Ralphie Velasquez. So
yeah,
my team got better as the year went on.
That was a heck of a premonition not to take Franco Alamon. I don't know if you and I were just trying to get cute and go off board, or if we were really concerned.
We were concerned because we talked about like how he hadn't pitched multiple days and like the lack of development and like the stuff was not.
How about we both missed on third base? You took Alex Mooney, who had a very tough year in Double-A. I took Luis Morejo, who you and I were very high on coming into the year, and a lot of swing and miss issues there. And your Nick Mitchell pick, I think, looks fun. Peterson, solid.
Yeah, there's not great third basin system. Like, let's be honest.
I wonder why. It's because that position's locked up. All right, you don't have to worry about it. I can't think of anybody in the minor leagues where I'm like, this guy is going to be a good third baseman. Maybe it'll be
Dean Curley.
Yeah, it definitely shouldn't be shortstop. Not after the way he played the other night at shortstop in the the first game of the championship series.
He can't play shortstop. I'm sorry. That was one of the reasons I knocked him to the second round. Like, I believe in the bat overall, but like I viewed him as like, unless the team fixes him, he's a DH. But like, he's got the arm. Like, I think he's probably the number 1 third base prospect. But that's something we'll handle in the offseason when we do our position reviews. We'll be able to dive into that.
Lots to dive in there. We got a lot to cover still all week, and of course tomorrow with the Tigers and Guardians series starting. So we'll be back with you on Wednesday talking Guardians Tigers game 1. We'll talk about some scoreboard watching. We mentioned the Rangers and Astros game tonight. So the Guardians and the Rangers are tied for that 4th spot, 1 out of the wild card. At least 1 spot out. I don't know how many games, but we'll do that, and we'll do some playoff scenarios in math. We'll look at the Twins series ahead too. We'll maybe dive into some more minor league stuff as well. So there's just so much to cover right now. It's a lot of fun. I got to be honest with you. I know last year was a lot of fun. The Guardians basically went wire to wire as the division champs, and the playoffs were a lot of fun. But this September, man, has been a lot of fun. There's been some interesting minor league developments. The team is in contention when they have no business being in contention, and it's gonna be nice just to watch this team fight for a playoff spot down the stretch. I just hope it's 2013 and not 2005.
Yes, and I want to thank you all for joining us, rating, reviewing, downloading. It helps. Make sure you do all the little things, comment below. Big shout outs to top 5 commenters: John Fagan, Cheeks Malone, the K Lefthart, Lawrence Charles, Eric Burns. And what I have to say to all of you is send them to Detroit. Go,
Merry Christmas.
Go.